You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of What If Deku Meets WinxClub. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Java Imagine 236 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. It was a quiet day in the city of Mizutofu in Japan, home to the UA Academy, the best hero academy in the world, where many boys and girls study and learn to become professional heroes one day. One of those students, Izukumidoriya, was taking a stroll through the streets of the city, enjoying a relaxing weekend, although he planned to hang out with his friends and train a bit to mstr his quirk. As he was walking down the street, a man bumped into his shoulder, causing him to stumble a bit. Izuku glanced at him, thinking how rude he was for not even apologizing, but as soon as he got a good look at him, something strange happened in him. He didn't know how to describe it, it was like some sort of sixth sense and it told him that this man was no good. Normally, Izuku would ignore him and go on with his routine, but he couldn't ignore that strange feeling and decided to follow that man just for a few moments to find out what was going on with him. Izuku was following him for a couple of minutes, making sure to keep his distance so as not to look suspicious to the man or anyone else. That's when the mysterious man turned into an alley and Izuku decided to stay behind, peeking his head out to observe what was going on, only to see the man standing there. Taking advantage of that, Izuku could see that the man had silver hair reaching his shoulders, dark skin and unique markings on his face that take the form of straight black lines. The man seemed a bit taller and more muscular than he thought, plus he carried a staff on whose head was a human skull with Native American decorations. Izuku hoped that wasn't authentic. The man looked around to make sure there was no one nearby watching. Luckily, Izuku was able to hide long enough to avoid being spotted. Well, it's time to head back, the man said to the green-haired boy's confusion. It was then that he raised his staff slightly and pointed it forward. His eye sockets glowed a faint red glow and suddenly, a green portal appeared in front of him, much to the green-haired boy's surprise. Is that a portal? Is he with the League of Villains? No, the portal of that man was black, this one is different. Could it be his quirk, wondered Izuku in his mind. Once I return, my plans for domination will be set in motion, said the man with an evil grin. That was enough for Izuku to know that this man was actually a villain. Normally, he would call the police to have a professional hero come and arrest him, but with that portal, he would surely escape before anyone arrived. He knew that what he planned to do was dangerous and against the rules, but he wouldn't be a hero if he stood by and did nothing. With great courage, though a little nervous, he stood behind the man. Hey, shouted Izuku, drawing the attention of the man, who turned to look at him. Who are you? Are you lost? Asked the man with a raised eyebrow. Are you a villain? Asked Izuku. The man remained expressionless for a few seconds before a smile formed on his face and he chuckled. I guess there's no need to hide it anymore. Yes, I am a villain, said the mysterious villain. What are you up to? Asked Izuku, staying alert in case of a fight and trying to buy time for someone to notice the situation and call in a professional hero. Not much. I just want to go back to my world and complete my plans, said the villain to Izuku's confusion. Your world? Asked Izuku, confused with what the villain said. You see, kid. Actually, I'm from another world different from this one, a world where magic replaces the quirks of this world, said the villain. So, the portal he made was the stuff of magic. Izuku was very curious about that other world of magic, but he had to concentrate on the villain in front of him. If you're from another world, what are you doing in this one? Asked Izuku. Well. Let's just say there was trouble where I came from and I traveled to this world to, shall we say, wait for things to cool down. After so long, I think the time has come for me to return to my world and fulfill my purpose of dominating everyone, said the villain. Why are you telling me all that? Asked Izuku. Isn't it obvious, brat? Asked the villain before turning around to be facing the portal. Once I cross this portal, I will be leaving this world, so I see no problem telling you about it, since it's none of your business or anyone else's in this world. Besides, in the time I was here, I didn't do much of anything, so they won't miss me if I leave. Izuku hated to admit it, but he saw the logic in his. If he crossed that portal, he would travel to a world different from his own and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Even if he told everyone, no one would believe him, for as he had said, he did nothing to stand out, it would be as if that man had never existed. Instinctively and without a second thought, Izuku activated his quirk causing green rays to run through his body. I won't let you do it, said Izuku before launching herself like a bullet towards him. Izuku slammed into the villain with the intention of knocking him to the ground, but then, because the portal was so close to them, they both ended up crossing it and the portal closed shortly after. Later, Izuku and the villain found themselves traversing the space-time vortex, with the green-haired boy hugging the villain with the intention of not letting go. Brat. Do you have any idea what you're doing? Asked the villain. No, but I know I won't let you do what you want, said Izuku tightening his grip on him. Very well. You asked for it, said the villain before pointing the skull of his staff at the green-haired boy. The eye sockets showed a flash of light that forced Izuku to release him to shield his eyes from the glare. Wasting no time, the skull opened its mouth and let out a bolt of magic lightning that impacted directly on the green-haired boy, ejecting him from the vortex tunnel. I don't know where he may have ended up, but I hope I never see him again, the villain said expressionlessly as he continued along the tunnel route. We are in Alfea, the fairy school of one of the planets of the magical dimension, Magix. Among all its students, there were 6 in particular who lived many adventures. Those 6 students were known as the Winx. That group had lived many adventures and faced enemies who wanted to take over the magical dimension. Their last adventure took them to Gardenia, a city on Earth, where they had to find the last fairy on the planet and protect her from fairy hunters. Now that this group of bad guys had been defeated and Roxy, the Earth Fairy, had begun her course in Alfea, it was time for the 6 most famous fairies on the planet to rest. One of their members, Flora, stood outside the building, facing the surrounding forest. Flora took a deep breath. Ah! Today looks like a nice day, said Flora. Suddenly, before she turned around, a green portal opened in the middle of the sky. The nature fairy was confused about it, wondering who created it and why. It was then that something fell rapidly from the portal, impacting heavily on the ground a short distance from where she was standing. Soon after, the portal disappeared. Feeling very curious about what fell from the portal, Flora quickly ran to the impact area. There she found a small crater covered in a smokescreen. Although she couldn't see clearly through the smoke, she could make out a figure struggling to his feet. When the smoke cleared, Flora gasped in shock at what she was seeing. Standing in the center of the crater was a young green-haired boy with many wounds and he was bleeding quite badly. He lifted his head to look at her, looking desperate and hurt. Please help me, said the young green-haired boy before collapsed on the ground. Oh my God, gasped Flora before running over to the young man and kneeling beside him. She quickly checked his pulse and sighed in relief to find that he was still alive, but she knew he wouldn't last long with those injuries. Carefully, she lifted him onto his back and ran with all her might into the building to alert a doctor and also, the headmistress, as the way he appeared was somewhat mysterious. One side of her wanted the boy to get well and another side of her was curious about him. It had been a few minutes since Flora had taken the boy who fell from the portal to the nursing. Shortly after that, Headmistress Faragonda asked her to come to her office to discuss the matter of the boy. Although the issue of a boy coming out of a portal that suddenly appeared was something to treat with importance, Flora wanted to be in the nursing watching for the boy to wake up or get better, as she was very worried about him, but for now, she had to leave that to the nurses. Just then, she walked into the headmistress' office, where Griselda, her assistant and the rest of the Winx were also in attendance, much to the surprise and confusion of the nature fairy. "Girls? What are you doing here?" asked Flora, confused by the presence of her best friends. "Faragonda called us here," explained Bloom. "Is it true that you found a badly injured child near the academy?" asked Layla. "That's precisely why I called you here," said Faragonda. "Why? Has something happened to him?" asked Flora with concern. "Calm down. The nurses have informed me that his wounds have been treated, so he should wake up shortly," said Griselda. "That's good, isn't it?" asked Tecna. "Yes, but there is something that caught my attention," said Griselda. "What?" asked Stella. "When the nurses analyzed the boy, they discovered two things. The first was the scars on his arms. From what I've been told, they were as if his muscles had burst," said Faragonda. "Holy cow! What happened to him to end up like that?" asked Musa. "That brings us to the second thing they discovered," said Griselda. "Apparently, the boy had something strange inside him," said Faragonda to the Winx's confusion. "Something strange? You mean he can use magic?" asked Bloom. "I don't think so. I analyzed it myself and I can confirm that it's not magic, but something very different," said Faragonda. "Flora, you said that boy fell from a portal that suddenly appeared in the sky, right?" asked Griselda. "Yes, that's right," confirmed Flora. "What are they suggesting?" asked Layla. "We think it's possible that this boy came from another world," said Faragonda. "If that's true, then how did he come to this world?" asked Stella. "It probably has something to do with the state he was in when he arrived," said Bloom. "That, ladies, is something only he himself can tell us. For the moment, all we can do is wait for him to wake up," said Faragonda. The Winx nodded in understanding given the situation. Izuku felt himself regaining consciousness. His eyes gradually opened as he let out a groan. The first thing he noticed was that he was in a nursing of some sort. Now that he stopped to think, he remembered that the last thing he saw before he passed out was a girl he begged for help. Surely she was the one who had led him there. At that moment, he heard the door open and looked to see a nurse coming in, but stopped midway when she saw him. Without a word, the nurse left the room. She was probably going to inform someone that he had woken up. Izuku sat up and noticed the wounds on his body. Surely, that villain's attack must have been powerful. Wait. The villain. Izuku was horrified as he remembered the villain he chased through that portal through which he was later expelled. Was he in another world? Was it the world he was planning to return to? What kind of world was it? Should he warn them about it? Thousands of questions crossed his mind to the point where he began to mutter like a madman. His muttering stopped when he heard the door open. He watched as 2 older ladies and 6 girls older than him entered the room. "So you've woken up, huh?" asked the oldest lady of them all. Yes. "Who are you?" asked Izuku. "Oh, my apologies. I am Faragonda, headmistress of the Fairy Academy, Alfea. This is my assistant, Miss Griselda," said the older lady, introducing herself and the lady next to her. "Fairies? Like the ones in children's stories? Do they really exist?" asked Izuku, surprised by the information. "Well, yes. In fact, they are some of my former students. They are Bloom, Stella, Musa, Tecna, Flora and Layla," said Faragonda, pointing to the Winx, with each one nodding or waving at the mention of her name. "Actually, it was Flora who found you," said Musa, pointing to the nature fairy. "Really?" asked Izuku, looking at said fairy. "Yes, that's right," said Flora. "In that case, thank you very much for helping me," said Izuku, bowing slightly. "You should be. It's not every day an older girl carries you around," said Stella with an amused smile. That made Izuku blush slightly at the thought of being carried by a girl, making the 6 girls giggle slightly. "Well. Now that introductions are in order, would you mind telling us how you came out of a portal?" asked Griselda, crossing her arms and making the green-haired boy nervous. "Hey. No need to be so rude. The poor boy just woke up, said Bloom, trying to calm the situation. Anyway. Where exactly did you come from? Asked Faragonda in a calmer manner than the other. Izuku paused to think about whether to reveal to them the truth about him being from another world, but if they knew about the portal, then, there was no point in hiding it. Well. The truth is. I'm not from this world, said Izuku, feeling nervous about how they were going to react. We already know that, said Tekna. What, did you really know? Asked Izuku, surprised to see that they didn't react in any way to what he mentioned earlier. Let's just say we have our expertise in portals, said Layla. Plus Principal Faragonda said she had found something inside you different from magic. What is it, by the way? Asked Flora. Izuku could see that they already knew enough not to suspect him, but he had to explain the necessary details for them to fully understand. That was my quirk, said Izuku. Quirk? Asked Stella. In the world I come from, 80% of the planet's population is born with quirks that grant the user a different power than others. Due to the amount of quirks users, being a hero became an official profession. There are even hero academies, one of which I attend, explained Izuku. Wow. Your world sounds amazing, said Bloom, impressed by the green-haired boy's world. If so, then what's your quirk? Asked Faragonda. My quirk is super strength. It is an energy that increases the power of my muscles, explained Izuku. It was because of your power that happened to your arms, said Flora, pointing to the scars on his hands and arms. Yes. Let's just say I had my fair share of fights, and so far I'm not able to control it at all. At first my bones were breaking due to me accumulating energy in one spot, but then I came up with a method to concentrate my energy all over my body, said Izuku. A clever tactic. However, you shouldn't be cautious if you can't control it at all. Especially considering your injuries, said Tekna. She's right. From what the nurses told me, it's a miracle you can still move them easily, said Griselda. Back to the main topic. How did you come to this world through a portal? Asked Faragonda. Regarding that, I was taking a walk when I saw a suspicious guy. I followed him to an alley where he opened a portal. I asked him what he was planning to do, and he revealed that he came from a world of magic from which he fled because of something he did in the past, and that he would return to complete his plans. I couldn't let him do that, so I tried to stop him, but I fell with him into the portal. He ejected me, and the next thing I know I woke up here, explained Izuku. You really jumped at him without a second thought? You do realize that was very reckless? Asked Stella, scolding the green-haired boy. I know. I was planning to call in a professional hero, but I knew that by the time they got there, he would be gone, and I couldn't allow that. I just wanted to take him down. I didn't think the situation would end up like this, said Izuku, lowering his head with some regret for what he did. Feeling a hand on his shoulder, he turned his head to the side to look at Flora. Don't blame yourself. You did what you thought was right. I'm sure anyone in your situation would have done the same thing, said Flora, trying to encourage him. Thank you, said Izuku with a smile, feeling better because of the nature fairy's words. At that moment, Bloom noticed that the headmistress had a frown on her face as she was concentrating on something. Is something wrong, Headmistress Faragonda? Asked Bloom. Izuku, began Faragonda, catching the green-haired boy's attention. You said that villain you followed claimed to come from a world of magic where he committed a crime and escaped to another world, right? Why, yes. That's what he told me, said Izuku. Do you think that man came from our world? Asked Musa curiously. I don't know, but there's no harm in looking into it a bit. I'll need you to explain in detail what he looked like. Maybe that will make things easier, said Faragonda. I'll do my best, said Izuku. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy your stay here, said Faragonda with a smile. What? Asked the others in the room. Headmistress Faragonda, are you sure? I mean, are you sure it won't be a problem? Asked Izuku, nervous about the headmistress's offer. It's okay. Consider yourself our special guest. Besides, while we're investigating about that man, we'll also look for a way to get you back to your world, said Faragonda. Would you really do that? asked Izuku in surprise, receiving a nod from the headmistress. She's the headmistress. Of course she would do that, said Layla, crossing her arms. That's nice, isn't it? Asked Bloom. And while you wait, you can take the opportunity to learn a bit about this world, said Tekna. It won't have quirks or professional heroes, but I'm sure you'll be quite surprised, said Musa. But we'll keep a good eye on you. Just because you're in an academy full of girls, doesn't mean you can do whatever you want, said Stella. Izuku was surprised that he was accepted so easily despite being a stranger in that world, but he couldn't help but smile at the kindness of all of them. Welcome to the Fairy Academy, Izuku, said Flora with a wink. After getting rid of that meddling child, the villain of unknown name continued his route through the space-time tunnel in the direction of some unknown location. He followed the route for a couple more minutes before he saw a light at the end of the tunnel. When the villain passed through it, he found himself in a kind of cave where there was a small pond with its own waterfall, the ceiling was illuminated by several crystals and there was a throne made of rocks. Home, sweet home, said the villain with a smile as he looked around the cave. Looks like nothing has changed in all this time. I guess they never got to find this place. Good. That'll make things easier. The villain sat down on his throne and pulled a crystal ball from his cloak. Now, show me where that which I need is, said the villain. The crystal ball emitted a glow and inside it looked like some kind of mist, but the villain could clearly see what it actually showed. Alfea, huh? So that's where it is. Normally I'd go there myself, but that would be too hasty since I don't know the extent of fairy power these days. I might need some reinforcements, the villain said before rising from his throne and walking a couple of steps forward. Forces of nature, come to my call and let those be born before me who will serve me faithfully, cried the villain reciting some sort of incantation. At that moment, 3 black holes formed in the ground. From the first emerged a jet of lava and rock that began to move in such a way as to create a figure. The figure looked like a cross between a man and a rhinoceros, except that it was made of rock and lava. From the second hole came a stream of cold air accompanied by chunks of ice. The wind swirled and the ice chunks came together, forming another figure. That figure looked like a knight, but his entire armor was filled with ice spikes, as well as his spear. From the third hole emerged a swarm of wasps that gathered together, forming another figure. By the time the shape of the figure was complete, the wasps disappeared, revealing a creature that looked like a cross between a woman and a wasp. The instant the 3 were created, they knelt before the villain. Sir, we were created solely to serve you and do all your bidding, said the 3 in unison. The reason I created you is because I need a little help on an important matter, said the villain. Of course, ask us for whatever you want and we will fulfill it, said the Ice Knight. Especially if it involves crushing someone. I'm looking forward to crushing someone with my fists, said the Lava Rhino. As they say, lots of muscle, little brains, said the Wasp Woman. Hey! What's that supposed to mean? Asked the offended Lava Rhino. Enough, shouted the villain, hitting the ground with the tip of his cane. I don't want to waste time with your nonsense. I want you to concentrate on the next thing, said the villain before pointing his staff at the Lava Rhino and the Ice Knight. You too. I want you to go to Alfea and retrieve an item for me. As you wish, sir, said the Ice Knight with a bow. What exactly is it that we are looking for? Asked the Lava Rhino. It is a book with a drawing of a star leaf on its cover. It shouldn't be that hard to find, said the villain. We won't fail you, sir, said the Ice Knight before he and the Lava Rhino walked out of the cave, leaving the villain and the Wasp Woman alone. Tell me the truth, why did you send those to get something so important? Asked the Wasp Woman. Let's just say it's been a while since I've been around and things surely happened that I'm not aware of, said the villain. I understand. You've sent those 2 to get that book and at the same time find out the strength of those fairies, right? Asked the Wasp Woman. You can never be too cautious. Besides, they, like you, are totally replaceable, said the villain before retreating. If you say so, said the Wasp Woman with a shrug as if it was no big deal. Meanwhile, in Alfea, a certain green-haired boy was enjoying his time in a world of magic. Of course, he couldn't help but be nervous due to the fact that he was in an all-girls school. If his friend, Mineta, knew about this he would die of jealousy. His nerves increased more when some girls looked at him curiously and whispered about who he was, why he was there and most of all, how handsome he was, something that made him blush a little. Thanks to some directions given to him by the Winx, Izuku was able to orient himself quite well in that big place, although he had to ask some girls for directions. As he wandered around, he was able to see the laboratory where some of the students were preparing magic potions. He also saw some of the classrooms where he could see the girls of the academy doing magic tricks like levitation, fire spells and even transformation. Izuku had to admit that this school wasn't that different from UA. Yes. No boys were allowed, but other than that, everything else was pretty similar. Having had enough of seeing the whole place, he decided to meet the most famous of the place, the Winx. From what he could get from some of the girls, the Winx were former students of the academy. Not only that, but they had also saved the magical dimension several times. Izuku was amazed. In terms of his world, those girls were heroines and hadn't only saved cities, but also entire worlds. His fanboy mode was screaming at him to run to them for details about their powers, heroic adventures, and even an autograph, but he had to restrain himself from seeming too weird or childish. Bloom was in her room minding her own business when she heard someone knocking on the door. "Come in," shouted Bloom, allowing the caller to open the door. "Oh. Hi, Izuku, do you need something?" "And no, it's nothing." "Well. The truth is," said Izuku, nervous about what he was going to ask her. "Don't be nervous. You can tell me anything," said Bloom with a confident smile just before Izuku quickly approached her. "Is it true that you are heroines? What did you do to be considered as such? What are your quirks, I mean powers?" asked Izuku, bombarding the fire fairy. "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Calm down, kid. One at a time. You really like heroes, don't you?" asked Bloom. Izuku realized what he had done and quickly backed away with a flushed face of embarrassment as he bowed again and again. I am so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. It's just that," began Izuku apologetically. "Hey, it's okay. It's normal for young people like you to get excited to see a hero or heroine in this case," said Bloom with a shrug. "So, you don't mind?" asked Izuku. "Of course I don't. You can ask me anything you want. You can even ask the others if you want," said Bloom. "In that case. What are your powers?" asked Izuku. "Well. I am a fire fairy," said Bloom, creating a flame from her hand. "I can generate it and modify it to my liking," informed Bloom before making the flame in her hand turn into an authentic dragon that began to fly around the room before exploding as a firework. "That's awesome, I've never seen anything like that before," said Izuku, totally amazed by the fire fairy's powers. "Thanks. And you know what's funny? I didn't even know it could do that to begin with," said Bloom. "What do you mean?" asked Izuku. "A long time ago, my planet was attacked by a trio of evil witches. My older sister, Daphne, saved my life by sending me to Earth, but not to yours, one where quirks don't exist," began Bloom. Izuku stood quietly, listening intently to the fire fairy's story. "A man and woman took me in and raised me as if I were their daughter. For years I thought I was a normal girl, but after certain events, I discovered the truth about my origins," said Bloom. "What happened to your planet?" asked Izuku curiously. "At first, we thought I had been destroyed along with my BRTH parents, but then we found out they were still alive and we managed to save them along with the whole planet," said Bloom. "I'm very happy about that." "But wait, what happened to your sister?" asked Izuku. A sad expression formed on Bloom's face. "She was cursed and now she's a spirit roaming the magical dimension," said Bloom. "I'm sorry. I didn't know," said Izuku, feeling sorry for her. "Don't worry about it. I'm sure we'll find something to break the curse," said Bloom, more cheerful than before. "Yes. I'm sure you will too, said Izuku. And that was a demonstration of the powers of a light fairy, said Stella, using her powers in front of Izuku, who was now in her room. Wow. That's amazing, said Izuku. I know, said Stella, crossing her arms and raising her head in pride. Hey. Bloom told me you had a magic ring and that a group of villains wanted it. Is it true? Asked Izuku curiously. Well, yes. I used to use it to enhance my powers before, but I don't need it anymore, said Stella. Is that why those villains wanted it? What were their names? The Tricks? Asked Izuku. Yes. They wanted to use the ring to try to overpower everyone, but they gave it up when they found something more powerful, said Stella. What? Asked Izuku. The magic of Bloom. It turned out that her magic originated from dragons, which made her more powerful than my ring, said Stella. What happened to them in the end? Asked Izuku. They were sent to a magical prison, but they managed to escape and collaborate with an enemy of ours and then did it again. We haven't seen them in a while, so that's good, said Stella with a shrug. I guess so, said Izuku. Hey. I'm curious. If you come from a hero world, that means you'll have a hero costume, right? Asked Stella. Well, yes. If you want I can show it to you, said Izuku, taking out his cell phone and showing a picture of him in his hero suit. Wow. It's a nice suit. I would change a few things, but it's not bad, said Stella. Thanks. The truth is, I based it on my idol and made some modifications to it to fit my quirk, said Izuku, rubbing the back of his head in embarrassment. Still, it's impressive, especially for a young man who doesn't understand much about clothes, said Stella. What? What do you mean by that? Asked Izuku, feeling a little offended. Stella laughed at his reaction, and after understanding her intention, Izuku joined her in laughter. Go ahead, give it a try, said Musa, handing the green-haired boy a pair of headphones. Izuku put them on and began to listen to a piece of music. As the music progressed, Izuku bobbed his head up and down as a sign that he was following the beat. Hey, this sounds great. Did you really make this yourself? Asked Izuku, taking off her headphones. That's right, it has its perks being a music fairy, said Musa. You know. One of my classmates loves music. In fact, she has her room full of instruments of all kinds, said Izuku. Really? I would like to meet her if possible, said Musa. If she knew about you, she would too, said Izuku. Come on. I almost got it, said Izuku. That's what you think. I have a lot of experience at this, said Tekna. The two were in the digital technology fairy's room playing a video game, and it looked like Izuku was struggling. Come on. Come on. No, no, no. No, said Izuku, having lost the game. I'm sorry, Izuku, but you had no business playing against the digital technology fairy, said Tekna. If I'm being honest, I didn't expect you to like video games, said Izuku. Are you saying that because I'm a girl? Asked Tekna with a frown, making the green-haired boy nervous. And no. I didn't mean that, said Izuku, waving his hands in defense. The digital technology fairy's frown was changed to a slight chuckle. I was only joking. I tend to give off that vibe, said Tekna. Truth be told. You're smarter than I expected, said Izuku, looking at the modern and technological style of the fairy's room. I know, but I don't like to brag about it. I prefer to be a normal girl. A little smarter, but normal, said Tekna. I understand. Even though I'm training to be a hero, I should enjoy my time with my friends and classmates, said Izuku. I couldn't have said it better. Another game? Asked Tekna, raising the console controller. I'm going to beat you this time, said Izuku before the two started playing. Layla formed a sphere of morphics between her hands and passed it to Izuku, who almost dropped it, but caught it in time. Amazing. And you can do anything with this substance? Asked Izuku. I have my limits, but yes, said Layla. I don't know if it's any bother, but I heard around that you were the last one to join the group, said Izuku. That's true. At first I was busy with some business on my planet, but then, a villain kidnapped some friends of mine. I tried to save them by myself, but I wasn't able to. That's when I met Bloom and the others and they helped me. From then on I joined their team and we became inseparable, explained Layla. I've noticed. You are definitely the best group of friends I've ever seen, said Izuku. Oh, thank you. You're very kind. I admit we had our sad and horrible moments, but despite that, we're still friends and I wouldn't trade you for anyone, said Layla. If I were in your place, I wouldn't either, said Izuku. Izuku was walking towards the room of the last remaining Winx to visit, Flora, the nature fairy. As he approached, he knocked on the door, hoping someone would answer. Come in, called Flora from inside. His request came true. When Izuku entered, he was dumbfounded to see the room filled with plants of all kinds. In his opinion, it looked more like a greenhouse than a normal room. Hello, asked Izuku since he couldn't see anyone among so many plants. Oh, Izuku. How nice that you're here. Do you mind giving me a hand? Asked Flora approaching the green-haired boy as she carried a potted plant. Sure, said Izuku. Great. Put this over there, next to the others, said Flora handing the pot to Izuku and pointing to where he should go. Without questioning her, Izuku did as she said and set the pot down on a part of the floor along with other pots in which there were various flowers. Wow. They weren't lying when they told me you were the nature fairy. I can tell you really like plants, said Izuku. Thank you. It's one of my favorite hobbies, said Flora as she watered some plants. Your powers consist of making plants grow? Asked Izuku. Not just that, said Flora just as, to the green-haired boy's surprise, the branch of a tree in the room moved to grab the watering can and continue watering. I can make them act like they're alive. I can even hear their voices. Wow. That's an amazing power. If you were in my world, you would be a very powerful and famous heroine, said Izuku. Oh, don't say that. It embarrasses me, said Flora with a small blush of embarrassment. They both shared a small laugh. Since you're here, why don't you give me a hand? It will be more fun if we do it together, said Flora. Sounds good to me. Where do I start? Asked Izuku. You can do this by going to the closet and grabbing some bags of manure, said Flora looking at some of the plants as the green-haired boy went to the said place. It was then that she remembered something important. Izuku, wait. Don't open the, shouted Flora alerting the green-haired boy, but it was too late. The moment Izuku opened the closet some kind of plant wrapped its vines around him like a wrapped gift, causing him to fall to the ground. What's this? Asked Izuku surprised by that. Sorry, Izuku. I forgot that I kept a plant there which, well, it really likes to hug, said Flora. Don't worry about it. It's not the first situation I've been involved in, said Izuku. Flora was silent until she burst out laughing loudly. Haha. Oh. Izuku. Do you know what you just said? Asked Flora continuing her laughing fit. Izuku was confused for a few seconds until he realized what he had said and the situation he was in, which made him join Flora in her laughing fit. The two of them were laughing for a while longer until they stopped and Flora helped Izuku free himself from the creeper plant. For the next few minutes, the two were enjoying tending to Flora's private garden. While they were concentrating on their work, they couldn't help but have some fun and a few laughs. Like when Flora accidentally watered Izuku due to mistaking his hair for some plant. Then there was another moment when Flora slipped, but Izuku managed to catch her in time, albeit in a gentlemanlike manner, which made him blush a bit, much to the amusement of the nature fairy. At that moment, someone came through the door. Flora, are you here? Asked Bloom entering the room and noticing the presence of the nature fairy and the green-haired boy. Is something wrong? Asked Flora. Headmistress Faragonda has called us, apparently she has something important to tell us and that includes you, Izuku, said Bloom. Me too, why? Asked Izuku confused. There's only one way to find out, said Flora. Later, The Winx and Izuku were in the headmistress's office to find out what she had to tell them. Well, we're all here now. What's that important thing you have to tell us? Asked Stella. Instead of answering the light fairy's question, Faragonda focused her gaze on the green-haired boy. Izuku, do you still remember what the villain who brought you to this world looked like? Asked Headmistress Faragonda. Yes. I would never forget his face, said Izuku. Is this the man? Asked Headmistress Faragonda, holding up an image of a man, but not just any man. Yes. That's the same man I chased, said Izuku, pointing to the image. Does that mean that man comes from the magic dimension? Asked Tecna. I'm afraid so, said Faragonda. But who is that? Asked Layla. This is Alvarez, a powerful sorcerer who once tried to take over the magic dimension a long time ago, explained Faragonda. How come we didn't hear about him? Asked Musa. Thanks to the help of many mages and allies, the situation was resolved without much trouble, but before they could arrest him, he mysteriously disappeared and was never heard from, said Faragonda. Until now, said Izuku. So he managed to escape by traveling to Izuku's world, said Flora, understanding the situation. The point is that he's back, and if he has, it means he has something planned, said Faragonda. But what? Asked Stella. Boom. Suddenly, an explosion sounded from the office. I think that was your answer, said Layla. What was that? Asked Musa. I don't know. Let's find out, said Bloom. I want to help, said Izuku. Izuku, no. It could be dangerous, said Flora. I don't know what kinds of dangers you went through in your world, but I don't think they're worse than the ones here, said Bloom. I don't care. Someone is attacking the academy and a lot of students could be in danger. There's no way I plan to stand by while that happens. I wouldn't be a hero if I did that, said Izuku with a determined look on his face. The Winx were caught by the look of determination the green-haired boy was giving them, which made them understand that he wasn't going to stand still even if they told him to. All right, you can come along. But be very careful. We don't know what awaits us, said Flora. I will, said Izuku. Wasting no time, Izuku and the Winx rushed off to the source of the explosion and find out what was going on. Izuku and the Winx went running through the corridors of the academy in the direction of where the explosion happened. On the way, they encountered several students who were fleeing in a state of panic and safety. Finally, they reached a part of the hallway where there was a large hole indicating that this was where the explosion occurred, but what they found left them speechless. Surrounding the area were wingless dragon-like creatures made entirely of ice, causing havoc and freezing areas with their icy breath. What are those things? Asked Layla. Those, my dear, are my pets, said a voice unknown to them. A pair of ice dragons stepped aside to show their MSTR, the Ice Knight. Who are you? Asked Musa. My apologies, but my name isn't necessary to know, but you should know that I am your enemy, said the Ice Knight. Well, I have to admit you're quite polite, said Stella. I appreciate your words. You'd better stay out of my way, it would be a shame to see your lives end, said the Ice Knight. You're very wrong if you think we're going to back down, said Bloom. As you wish. I have warned you, said the Ice Knight before pointing his spear at them, causing the dragons to charge towards them. Girls, Bolivic's transformation, said Bloom. Before Izuku's wide eyes, the girls underwent some sort of metamorphosis in which their clothes and hair were changed and a pair of wings grew on their backs. Amazing. Is that another fairy power? Asked Izuku. Izuku, you stay there. We'll take care of them, said Flora. Okay, said Izuku. A part of him wanted to help them, but he knew he would be in the way and that could hurt them. Very impressive. Let's see what you are capable of doing in that state, said the Ice Knight as his ice dragons approached the Winx. Fire arrow, shouted Bloom, launching a bolt of fire at one of the dragons which exploded on impact. They may look creepy, but they're just ice statues. Stereo crash, shouted Musa, launching a sound wave that destroyed two ice dragons. That may be, but my pets have a couple of hidden tricks," said the knight just as the pieces of the fallen dragons came together to form the ice dragons that had been destroyed. "Can they regenerate?" asked Izuku in surprise. Before anyone else could comment, an ice dragon shot an ice beam from its mouth. "Morphic's barrier," shouted Layla, raising a barrier that defended them from the attack. "I have a feeling this isn't going to be as easy as I thought." As they continued to fight the ice dragons, Izuku stood off to the side, observing the combat and analyzing the situation. "Those ice dragons don't look very strong, but that regeneration of theirs might get the girls in trouble if they don't find another alternative," Izuku said. Suddenly, he caught something out of the corner of his eye. Turning his head, he could notice an unfamiliar figure coming out from another part of the building and running towards the forest. At first he thought it was some student hoping to be safe there, but a closer look made him see that the figure wasn't human. Feeling curious, Izuku decided to follow, taking care not to draw the attention of the dragons or the Ice Knight. The Lava Rhino, who had accompanied the Ice Knight on the mission given to him by Alvarez, was walking through the forest, and in his hand was a book that looked very old. "Why the hell does he have to take care of those fairies while I take this book to the boss? It's not fair. I want my share of fun too," said the Lava Rhino in frustration before looking at the book he was carrying, which had a picture of a star leaf on the cover. "I hope this is worth it, because if not, what was the point of having stolen it from that place?" "Hey," a voice caught the attention of the Lava Rhino, who turned around to see Izuku. "You stole that book?" "Well, it was in a library, we can say I took it." "Borrowed it," said the Lava Rhino. "Give that back right now," demanded Izuku. "Oh, yes. And who's going to make me?" "You?" asked the Lava Rhino with a cocky grin. Izuku paused for a moment to think about it. The two of them were in the middle of a forest, with no one around for quite some distance. Besides, the Winx were taking care of the Ice Knight and his dragons. And there was also the fact that he didn't know what that being was capable of. However, there was no other way. After taking a deep breath to calm himself, Izuku activated his quirk. "If I have to, I will," exclaimed Izuku, positioning himself. "Haha. Perfect. Looks like I'll finally have some fun," said the Lava Rhino before throwing down the book and positioning himself for combat. "You better hope you don't die soon. That would be boring." With a battle cry, the rhino charged first, charging towards the green-haired boy like a true rhino. Just as he was within striking distance of him, Izuku quickly leaped over him. "Manchester Smash," shouted Izuku, kicking him hard in the back, sending him crashing into a tree. Unfortunately, when Izuku landed on the ground, he let out a groan of pain. Looking down at his leg, he was surprised to find his clothes burned and slightly shredded, showing his skin that had been slightly burned. "You got lucky, kid," said the Lava Rhino, catching the attention of the green-haired boy, who lifted his head to see him getting up. "But you ran out." With another battle cry, the Lava Rhino lunged toward him with his fist recoiled. Reacting quickly, Izuku drew back his fist as well. When he got close enough, they both threw their fists forward. The result was that both fists collided with each other, generating a wind wave due to the force applied. Izuku used his quirk to keep the enemy's fist in a stable position, but then, he felt a great pain in his fist, forcing him to retreat a couple of steps. Looking at his hand, Izuku was horrified to see it with burns. If he had stayed a little longer, surely the burns would have been very serious. "What happened?" asked Izuku. "You seem to have noticed," said the Lava Rhino, catching the green-haired boy's attention. "I'm surprised you didn't notice from the beginning, but, as you can see, I'm not exactly a living thing. No. I'm actually made of rock and lava. Which means if you touch me, you get burned. Literally." Izuku was surprised at this revelation. He supposed this magical world could be many things, from goblins to centaurs, but he never would have imagined a being made of rock and lava, let alone facing a real one. Enough of the chatter. "It's time to end this," said the Lava Rhino before leaping upward. The moment he stopped in midair, he raised his fists before falling towards the ground. Izuku was able to pull back in time to dodge the attack, which was so strong that it caused a small crater in the ground. If he gets to hit me with that force, I don't think I'll survive, thought Izuku. The next instant, the fight had completely changed, with the lava rhino trying to hit the green-haired boy and him continuously dodging his attacks due to having to think of a new strategy due to the situation. I can't hit it. If I do, I risk getting burned, and I think the same thing would happen if he hit me. I can't let him do it, but I can't be running all the time, thought Izuku, formulating a strategy. Hey! Stop running away like a coward and fight like a man, shouted the lava rhino before throwing his fist towards the green-haired boy, but he dodged to the side to dodge it, causing the fist to hit the ground, leaving a small crater. He's right. I have to fight, but how, wondered Izuku in his mind. It was then that he remembered his battle with Shoto when he had to sacrifice his fingers to defend against his ranged attacks. Normally, he wouldn't do that again, but now that he had the full cowl, that wouldn't happen again. What's the matter? Now that you know my trick, you don't dare to fight, the lava rhino asked, taunting him. If I can't hit you directly, then I'll fight you without needing to, said Izuku. Ha! Give it a try, kid. That'll make it more fun, said the lava rhino before charging towards him with his horn in front. Izuku thumbed two of his fingers, building up pressure as he waited for his opponent to get close enough, and when that happened. Delaware smash, shouted Izuku, releasing his fingers, creating such a powerful blast of wind that not only violently hit the lava rhino, but also, due to the recoil effect, caused him to fly off in the opposite direction. It also created an explosion so large that it would surely have been heard for miles. While the two were having their fight, the Winx continued to fight the ice dragons, but it didn't matter what they did. Every time they destroyed one, it quickly regenerated. Techno shock, shouted Techna, firing a magic beam that hit another dragon that was destroyed, but soon after, it regenerated. Solar storm, shouted Stella, hitting the same ice dragon shortly after it regenerated, but it wasn't long before it did it again. DMN. Is there no way to destroy them completely? Maybe we don't need to destroy them, began Flora. Summer thunder, shouted Flora, causing several roots to spring up from the ground around each ice dragon and entangle themselves in them, holding them back in the process. Good thinking, Flora. This way, they won't do much damage, said Bloom. Very clever, but there's still something you haven't accounted for, said the Ice Knight. What? Asked Layla. Me, said the Ice Knight before pointing his ice spear at them and firing an ice beam. Fortunately, they were able to dodge it by flying high in the air, but the impact area was completely frozen along with some spikes, like some kind of ice explosion. Okay. You've angered me off enough. Sun dance, shouted Stella, throwing a sphere of light, but the Ice Knight swung his spear back and forth, causing a wall of ice to rise up to protect him from the attack. In that case, let me help you cool that mood, said the Ice Knight, summoning several icicles of ice around him and sending them towards them. Fire dragon, shouted Bloom, summoning a fire dragon that managed to melt the icicles in time. Girls, be careful, it's stronger than it looks, said Techna. I'm glad you are cautious. I guess it's time to. Began the Ice Knight. But suddenly, an explosion sounded from the distance, causing everyone to turn their heads in the direction of origin. What was that? Asked Bloom. It seems my companion must have encountered some obstacle in the way, began the Ice Knight before turning to the Winx. Forgive me, but I must interrupt this combat. The time has come for me to leave, said the Ice Knight before leaving. Oh, no. You're not going to walk away. MangaMuse, shouted Layla, throwing some ropes of her magic to catch him, but the Ice Knight cut the ropes with the sharp point of his spear and ran out of the place. DMN it. He's escaped, said Musa. Don't worry. We'll catch him next time, said Bloom, trying to calm the situation. At that moment, Flora noticed something, or rather, someone. Wait. Where's Izuku? Asked Flora, realizing the lack of the green-haired boy's presence. The 6 fairies looked around to see no sign of him. Wait a minute. Didn't that guy say that his partner found an obstacle in his way? Asked Musa. You don't think that? Asked Tekna before Flora's eyes widened in concern at the revelation. Oh, no. Izuku, shouted Flora before quickly flying towards where the explosion originated. Flora, wait, shouted Bloom before she and the others followed the nature fairy. Shortly after the explosion happened, Izuku slowly stood up while letting out a couple of groans, due to the fact that he had hit a tree when he was ejected by the recoil force. He looked at his hand and mentally sighed as he saw that his fingers were still intact thanks to the full cowl. He still had the burns from before, but the important thing was that he hadn't overdone it. A groan in the distance caught his attention and he lifted his head to see the lava rhino struggling to his feet. As it did so, Izuku could see that there was a rather deep crater in his chest. That proved two things. First, that he was indeed made of rock and lava, and second, that Izuku's attack had done quite a bit of damage to him, though not enough, as he was getting up. DMN brat. You're paying me back, shouted the lava rhino before an ice spear was moved in front of him. Turning his head, he met his companion. It's time to go, said the Ice Knight. What? No way. I'm not leaving until that brat pays for what he's done to me, shouted the lava rhino. Mega what? Quickly, the two minions jumped to the side to dodge an incoming attack. Looking up, they could see the Winx arriving on the scene. I'm afraid you'll have to leave your business for another time. I don't think the Lord is going to like this, said the Ice Knight. The lava rhino let out a loud groan of frustration. DMN it, shouted the lava rhino raising his fists and pounding the ground loudly, causing a curtain of smoke to rise around him and his companion. By the time the smoke dissipated, there was no trace of either of them left. Oh. I hate it when they do that, said Stella crossing her arms. Now that they were gone, it was time to focus on something else. Izuku, exclaimed Flora landing next to the green-haired boy. Are you okay? Asked Flora with concern. Yes, I'm fine. I just suffered some burns, said Izuku pointing to his wounds. What exactly happened? Asked Bloom landing next to him with the others. You see, while you were busy with those ice dragons, I noticed something moving through the trees. I followed him and discovered that he was the companion of that Ice Knight who had stolen a book from the academy. I fought him, but then, I discovered that he was made of rock and lava, so I couldn't hit him directly, explained Izuku. And how did you defeat him? That explosion could be seen from Alfea, said Musa. What I did was to build up pressure in my fingers. When I released them, I shot a blast of wind at him so powerful that it caused the explosion, explained Izuku. Well. The important thing is that you're okay, said Flora. By any chance, where is the book that creature was carrying? Asked Layla. Izuku glanced around. There it is, exclaimed Izuku pointing in one direction. The Winx turned in that direction and saw the book lying on the ground. Bloom walked over to the book and picked it up. So, they attacked the academy for this book? Asked Bloom. They must really want it bad, said Stella. Either that or there's something in it that's important enough to hurt people, said Tekna. But what could it be? Asked Izuku. We'd best take this to the headmistress. I'm sure she knows what this is all about, suggested Bloom. Good idea, but first, began Flora before turning her gaze to the green-haired boy. We need to tend to those wounds as soon as possible. I'm fine, Flora. This is nothing, said Izuku. But then, the nature fairy gave her a stern look like a responsible older sister, something that unnerved the green-haired boy, who raised his hands in defense. Oh okay. I'll go. I'll go. The Winx chuckled at the amusing scene. After the two attackers of Alfea disappeared, the Winx and Izuku returned to the building, where the first thing they did was to take Izuku to the infirmary, where the green-haired boy was amazed at the magical abilities to heal his burns to the point of disappearing completely. Once they were done with that matter, the seven of them headed to the headmistress' office, where they explained to her about the intentions of the two attackers. Are you telling me that all this chaos was set up because of a single book? Asked Griselda. That's right, said Bloom. Bloom, my dear, may I see that book? Asked Headmistress Faragonda. The Fire Fairy handed the book to the headmistress, who opened the book and began flipping through the pages, until she stopped at one. I think I know what they wanted from the book, said Faragonda. The what? Asked Flora. The mystical tree, said Faragonda. The mystical tree? Asked Izuku. I've never heard of such a thing, said Layla. To answer their questions, the headmistress proceeded to read the content that was in that book. Long ago, there was a tree that possessed more magic than any other. That tree was known as the mystical tree. For years, its magic was used to maintain balance in nature, but many wizards and warlocks continually fought to obtain that power. To prevent it from falling into the wrong hands, the guardians of the tree hid it in a place where only the worthy could reach. Faragonda said. So those two want to find that tree, said Flora. I don't think so, began Izuku, drawing everyone's attention. Before they escaped, the Ice Knight said that his lord wasn't going to like it. That means they must work for someone, said Bloom, understanding. And that lord of theirs is the one who wants to find the tree, said Layla. Well. At least we got them to run away, right? Asked Stella. I wouldn't relax if I were you, miss, said Griselda. She's right. If they've tried once and failed, they'll try again. I know from experience, said Izuku, recalling his encounters with the League of Villains. That's why you all must prepare yourselves for the moment when they act again. And when I say, all of you, I mean, all of you, said Faragonda, turning her gaze to the green-haired boy. I? Asked Izuku, pointing to himself. That's right. I know you were able to hold your own during your fight against that lava rhino, but the next time you face it or anything else, the situation will be totally different from before. So you need to practice a bit, said Faragonda. Izuku stopped for a moment to think about it. It was true that, if he hadn't used the Delaware Smash against that guy, he probably would have ended up defeated. Besides, who knows how they would act the next time they tried to get the book, or rather, who would act, since they have little knowledge of their supposed MSTR and his other companions, if any more. Agreed. If necessary, I will train to be more prepared, said Izuku with determination. And we will help you, said Flora. Of course we will. We're in this together, said Bloom. We have to keep an eye on you anyway, said Stella. And since you're involved in this thing just like us, that makes us a team, said Tekna. But don't think we'll be nice to you, said Musa. You better be prepared, said Layla. Thanks a lot, girls, said Izuku. Meanwhile, in Alvarez's lair, the said villain was sitting on his throne, with the wasp woman flying calmly in the air as if she were floating on water. It was at that moment that the lava rhinoceros and the ice knight arrived on the scene, something that caught the wasp woman's attention. Well. Look who's back, said the wasp woman, landing on the ground. Shut up, I'm not in the mood for your nonsense right now, exclaimed the lava rhino angrily. Judging by your response, I can imagine you didn't make it, said Alvarez. Yes. I'm very sorry, sir, said the Ice Knight, bowing in apology. The mission was to attack a school of young fairies while you stole a book from their library. Can you tell me what went wrong? Asked Alvarez, rising from his throne. Sir, it seems that the academy had a very powerful group of fairies. I believe they call themselves the Winx, recounted the Ice Knight. I had the book in the palm of my hand myself. Literally. But a green-haired brat got in my way, said the lava rhino. Did you say, green-haired brat? Asked Alvarez curiously as that clicked in his mind. Yes. I had him cornered, but then he launched a powerful attack that knocked me down, said the lava rhino. So, you're not as strong as I thought you were, said the wasp woman. I am. And I'll prove it when I finish that brat off with my bare hands, exclaimed the lava rhino. Enough, began Alvarez, stopping the argument between his two henchmen. Tell me, could that kid make lightning bolts run through his body? Yes. I don't know what kind of magic that was, but it gave him a pretty big force, said the lava rhino. That wasn't magic, that was a quirk, said Alvarez, tightening his grip on the staff, as he had now figured out what was going on. Quirk. What is that? Asked the wasp woman. As I guess you may know, I had to leave this world while I was being searched in this one. In the world I was in, there was something called quirks that grant most humans special powers, explained Alvarez. You mean that boy had come from that other world? Asked the Ice Knight. Apparently so. Just before I left, that kid had the audacity to get in my way, and then he committed the stupidity of following me through the portal. I thought I got rid of him on the way, but I see I was wrong, said Alvarez. Will that kid pose a problem for us? Asked the wasp woman. Maybe, but we'll still go ahead with the plan. We'll just have to change the strategy a bit, said Alvarez. What do you suggest, sir? Asked the Ice Knight. I think it's time that boy and I see eye to eye again, said Alvarez with a wicked grin. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Job Imagine 236 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.